Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our YHDP reporting webinar. We are having people joining us right now, so we'll just give it a few minutes before we get started. My name is Janine Beasley. I use she, her pronouns. I am a HUD dedicated desk officer. And our other presenters today are Caroline Kraus, who is also with the YHDP program. We have Michelle Budzek, and then we have Meredith Asplar, Gary Wickering, and Brian Davis. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Michelle whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Janine. Welcome, everyone. We're going to focus on reporting and take a look at both APRs and QPRs. And just to remind you, what we're doing here with those reports is trying to measure the success of your programs. So, YHDP is designed to reduce the number of youth experiencing homelessness, and the data that you're turning in is showing us when you've done that, when they've been able to exit the program to a successful housing outcome for them. And then YHDP is also designed to share what works with other folks, thus the amount of coordination and communication you have on the program with other providers. If you have not used Sage before, all of the reporting that HUD does for QPRs, quarterly performance reports, and APRs, annual performance reports, go into HUD through Sage. And you would go to www.sagehmis.info and create an account for yourself, put all your information in. On the right side, your position is that you are a COC grant recipient. So choose recipient, COC grant. And then for the entity, type in a bit of your name or your COC number, and your drop-down list will come up, and you'll pick from that drop-down list. Once you have an account, then you'll log into Sage on the front page and hit go. Should you forget your password, there's a password reset on the bottom of that says forgot my password. Please feel free to use that anytime. It really does work. On your dashboard, if you have access to multiple projects, you will have multiple what we call quick connector boxes, these boxes on the screen. So you would have a box for all of your COC program APRs. You would have a box for your YHDP grant. Both the APRs and QPRs would be in there. If you get unsheltered and rural money, that will be there. And if you also are an ESG recipient, the city, state, county, or territory that is allocated the ESG money, you get the ESG view on your screen. You're going to always click YHDP to go to YHDP reports, and up will come the APRs that are to be completed, and it will show you the number that are there ready for you. The QPRs to be completed. And then there are tabs that will show you all the APRs and QPRs that you have awarded to your organization or to an organization you have an affiliation with. So the QPRs are due within 30 days of the end of the quarter. And the quarters are regular calendar quarters, nothing special going on there, but they're all due within 30 days of the end of that quarter. So it's not that you start your report on day 30, it's that you submit it on day 30, generally. The annual performance report is due 90 days after your operating year is over. And it's submitted each year. So if you have a 2-year grant, like the original grants are often, then you're going to submit one at the end of the first year and at the end of the second year. It's not a total grant report, it's an annual report. So you need to pay attention to that. The QPR is a whole lot simpler than the APR in that it doesn't take a look at bed and unit utilization. It doesn't look at any financial information or program income. The supplemental questions that are in the QPR are just checkboxes. There's no narrative required. But in the APR, there is a narrative. There are narratives, and we are asking more detailed questions for you to comment on. The kind of common questions or common issues that we have with reporting for YHDP begin with that very first report. So the reports start in Sage with the start of your operating year. Your operating years, if you're a newer recipient, were set by the date that you signed that HUD signed the contract. Earlier recipients that aren't like round 6 or 5, I think, also did this. Earlier recipients, the operating date was set by the recipient themselves when they drew their funds in locks. Either way, when you begin your project, when the operating year starts for you, you will have a QPR on your desktop for that quarter to report on. If you did not serve any clients that first quarter, you may enter no, you didn't serve any clients, and then you will just simply answer the question, so what did you do this quarter with YHDP? And what's your plan and timeline for actually starting to serve clients? So there is a leeway, especially because of the way the operating start dates worked with YHDP in contract signing. Once you begin to serve clients and you say yes, then you'll get a full QPR to submit. When you say no, it's just answering those questions and submitting that. Common questions about the APR are also around the CSV upload. So you're uploading a CSV that's in the FY24 format. If you do not have the FY24 format yet, HUD will be addressing that in a national listserv, hopefully by the end of the week, to tell you what to do. But you should have the 24 format that was required to be released by the vendors on October 1st of this year. The report must pass validations. It has to be able to be in balance. So essentially what we do is, if you look at the report output, in question 5, Q5, we call them all Qs, and Q5, you'll see that there's a validation table. It just is the sum of lots of different kinds of things in the report, like how many people are in the report, how many households, how many youth. Each question then after Q6, so beginning with Q7, each question then balances back to Q5. So if you said you served 100 people in Q5, we're going to look in the questions that all of the things add up to 100. So there's 100 different kinds of races. There's 100 people in there. There were 100 people that entered the project and where they entered from. We're going to come in and balance. There's a number that says how many people exited. We're going to look and see at exit time, is the exit information in the report equal to that validation table? That's what the validations mean in the report. So Sage is looking to see, is the report in balance? If the report is not in balance, in general, it's a programming issue with the HMIS rather than a data input issue. The times where it's a data correction issue is more around persons that moved into housing that you did not mark as moved into housing. That's a data entry issue that you would correct. Or around assessments. Annual assessments are to be done within a certain time period. It's not whenever you feel like it. It's an actual annual assessment of the person's move-in date into housing. And if you don't do that in a timely fashion, you'll see that some of the questions would be off balance because those wouldn't be done. The CE APR is the same report, is a CE APR, a separate report from the full APR, so that you use the full APR for transitional housing, for RH, for permanent supportive housing, for services only, for street outreach. Use the CE APR if you are reporting on a coordinated entry grant. And that would come either from your full HMIS or your comparable database system. And if you're running a coordinated entry project, you're going to upload the full community's CE APR. So the CE report is a system-wide report. It's not a YHDP report. So you're reporting on the entire COC activity in coordinated entry, and you'll put that up. If you're a victim service provider, you're going to put up 2 CSVs, one for you as the victim service provider, and the other one is the full community CSV. The another common question is the SRTs. So you get there's a YHDP SRT app that you get from your dashboard. There's a link here. You just download the app. It's real simple, real fast download. If your organization does not allow downloads to your individual computer, then your IT folks need to find you a computer that you're going to be able to download the app onto. The app automatically updates itself. If there is an update to the data standards, you don't need to fool around and do anything else. It will update itself. And very simply, what the application is doing is asking you to upload the HMIS CSV that comes out of your HMIS or comparable database system. That's a CSV that shows much more information and much more movement than what is shown in the APR. The APR takes snippets of the data on clients out of the system and puts it together into that report. The HMIS CSV runs everything and then runs it up through the SRT app and pulls out the snippets that HUD wants there. The kinds of things that the SRT does that the APR doesn't do is allow you to compare outcomes by race and gender. So you can look crosswise at the HMIS data that shows you how many persons of color, for example, were able to go to housing. Some common questions about supplemental information that we're asked a lot is what's the difference? And the difference in from the QPR to the APR is whether you get to check a box or whether you write a narrative. In the QPR, we are looking for who you served. So you're going to identify whether you served literally homeless, persons at imminent risk of homelessness, or persons fleeing domestic violence. And you're going to then tell us if you're serving literally homeless, what did you do with them this quarter? What was the major activity that you were doing? And we're crossing that activity then with outcomes so that we can look at what are the activities that appear to generate the highest outcomes, but also what are the activities that are common among certain project types or like kinds of projects across the community. And they're also HUD is also asking you to identify if you actually used one of the special activities that you were allowed to do under YHDP that regular COC grantees aren't allowed to do, asking you if you did that this quarter. The APR, the supplemental questions are asking you to describe your project, describe the needs, describe the current level of success, describe the qualitative outcomes. We get the quantitative from the CSV uploads. We're asking you to give us the qualitative outcomes. Describe any challenges that you have. And then I think the last question is a question that most funders don't ask, but HUD is asking you, what supports could HUD or TA have been providing that would have helped you overcome a challenge that you had? It's a great opportunity to be able to feedback to HUD then and there. I got to tell you that I've done APRs for a long time, and many times you write a narrative and you wonder, does somebody read this? Is this really important or making a difference? Did anybody care? People read these. So it really is helpful if you actually write the narrative to showcase your project and tell really what happened in that project. If you had a problem, tell them you had a problem and why. But if it worked and it worked really well, tell them that and why. The more you can articulate how good YHDP is, the better it is for ongoing funding, for HUD to understand your program better, for this to be a true demonstration where other people can learn from your successes. We don't do financial information in quarterly reports, but HUD looks at whether you have drawn funds within the quarter. You are supposed to draw funds from locks every quarter. So even though you don't report financial information, HUD behind the scenes is looking at, do you draw funds? And they're looking at, are those funds being drawn greater than or equal to 90% of what should be drawn by that time in the grant's life? That's a really important concept for YHDP to get, because the spending is very slow in your program. And so the more you can do to actually utilize the funds that you're given and to draw them so that you show how they're being utilized, the better it is for everybody. So again, draw your funds quarterly. The annual report takes a look at, are you reporting in the report the same thing that you drew funds on from locks? It's not rocket science here. It's got a match, but to the penny, not rounded, not general. It's got to match your books at your organization. So it's a really, really helpful thing if you have your financial folks take a look at that before you submit it. I can't tell you how many times the report goes in and out and back and forth because no financial person has looked at it, and the person that's filling it out didn't realize there was admin money drawn, or something different was drawn than they thought should be. So you get that matched up with financials. Your financial folks is really important, and then you're going to show your match, which is 25% of your expenditures in general. There's some exceptions to that, but in general, it's a 25% match. What does HUD do with that? HUD looks at, are all the funds expended? Were they expended on the right thing? What's the cost of positive outcome for client? All of those kinds of things get measured and looked at from the financial information that you submit. So the financial information form, just so you know, on the submission launchpad, there's a summary of the lock straw and a summary of the award amounts, that if you don't know how much your grant is, or you don't know where you are in the lock straws, that's showing on your page, the submission launchpad page 2 at the beginning of the report. I'm going to take a peek at Sage, but I'm going to stop and see, Meredith, do we have questions?
We have not had any questions come in, but if folks do have a question, they want to raise their hand, we can take you off mute and let you ask. There's one. When I view my dashboard, it shows 0 QPRs to be completed and no data under the all QPR tab. Shouldn't Sage show something concerning this report?
Sage will show you the QPRs if you've, Sage will show you the QPRs. If you're a grantee before round 5, you don't do a QPR.
Before round 4 or 5.
4 or 5. Yeah, you don't do a QPR. So if you're one of those round 1, 2, 3 recipients, you don't have to worry about QPRs yet.
And then,
yeah, so you won't see any.
And there are some projects that don't require a QPR, right? So like.
Correct. So if you're running HMIS coordinated entry, you don't have to do a QPR.
Yeah. Someone just had their hand raised, but then I think they put it back down. Did anyone else have a question? There it is, the Caroline. Okay, you should be able to speak. Can you talk? You may
There we
need
go,
to
I can hear you
unmute.
now.
There you go. There you go.
For the SRT, are we downloading data from our HMIS system and then uploading it into that tool?
Yes.
And which like report are we running for that?
So you run the HMIS CSV from your HMIS system, download that on your desktop, and then upload that into the app. The app will create a report that will be in a CSV format that you'll download, and then you'll upload it to Sage.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Let me take you to your dashboard and show you what it looks like. Just to make sure that you're, there are help and resources up here that include YHDP guidance, APR general guidance, and Sage guidebooks for you to use. There are reports that you're able to jump to that will show you what's overdue or coming due, your grants, your charts and data on how your grants are being used, and who's using Sage from your organization. When you go to that, you can always go back to your dashboard by clicking that little dashboard symbol, and you'll always come back here. You'll click on the quick connector to actually see a notebook of your grants. Once you click that quick connector, Sage is always going to come back to the last quick connector that you clicked, so you don't have to keep coming in and out. So on your dashboard, you're going to see your APRs to be completed. You'll see all your APRs. Now, by all your APRs, it's all APRs that we call them born in Sage. There's not a better word to use for that, but that means that that project is alive and active. So you might have a grant that was awarded that hasn't gone live yet. It's your FY22 grant hasn't gone live perhaps, and so then that wouldn't be on your dashboard. We consider it going live once it has an operating start date in lots. The APRs show up for you on the day that they are, the day after the operating end date. So if your year ends December 31st, you're going to see the APR on January 1st, and then the APR will be submitted within 90 days of that date. If we're just taking a look at an APR, you click on the grant that you want to complete, and you'll see it look like this with all of the information kind of missing here. You'll then just click add and add the information that is asked for. This little help button is really kind of a cool feature. It will take you to the page in the APR guidebook that relates to the dashboard question. So it just is a way to get you the guidance the way it's intended to be explained to you up there. Text boxes are small. You can enlarge them. It's only a 2,500 character text box, so you're not writing a dissertation here. But you are hopefully writing a clear, succinct message of what you accomplished in your program. And we've tried to use these accomplishments in summaries and reports that we've done on YHDP. And often it's tough to use them because they don't really talk about accomplishments. It's really, really helpful for you in reporting to say to HUD what works. What did you do this quarter? And hopefully there is an accomplishment each year. You're doing stuff. The upload, the CSV upload can be viewed, and if you just click the view button, you're going to see your entire report in here. That happens, the same thing happens with your SRT upload. You'll be able to see your SRT report in Sage as it goes. If you try to upload and it didn't work, you're going to get a message in red telling you what's wrong. Oh, shoot. What's wrong with the upload? I thought I had it and I don't. The upload will tell you, the Sage will tell you if the upload is the wrong year, if you've used the wrong year for the upload, like the FY23 instead of the 24, if you have the wrong project type. So your project, if you were funded for an RRH project, you need to upload a CSV that's reporting on an RRH project. That means that your HMIS system or comparable database system is recognizing that project as a RRH or whatever it's funded to be. If you get a message that says that something doesn't align, it will tell you that in Q5, you say you have 100 people. In Q12, you're only saying you have 85. Those have to match, and it's telling you exactly where the error is. That again is generally an error in programming, not an error in that you've made, but you need to look at it to make sure of that before you reach out to your HMIS lead to talk to your vendor. Meredith, do we have questions here now?
No questions yet. I did want to just make one clarifying point with the supplemental reporting tool. You are using the hashed HMIS CSV. So you'll want to make sure that that's the one that's being imported into the app, because that's the one that has all the client identifying information removed from it or obfuscated, scrambled up. So you'll want to make sure that you have that access to that report for the supplemental reporting tool.
Sometimes it's called in systems the HMIS for RI. QPRs are here, and they're all will show you that they're all up and available, so you'll have a whole list of QPRs. If the period has not ended, the report is not live. So it's only live if the period has ended, and then the quarterly report is here. Again, you're going to start that report by saying you serve clients. Once you've said that, you don't have to do this form anymore. But if you didn't serve clients yet in this quarter, then it will give you just this little report with a quarterly activity that you'll write down. you know, what have you done and when do you plan to start? If you say yes to this question, that you did serve clients, then the whole report will open for you. That's our presentation at this point. If you have questions, we're happy to answer them.
Yeah, feel free to raise your hand and we can get you off mute. So you can ask a question or put it in the chat.
So again, if you're round 3 person, you don't do a QPR, you just do an APR. So I think you might be confused because this doesn't, QPRs do not apply to you. But the APR, all of the things we said about the APR does apply.
Not seeing anything else in the chat. Everybody's professional at this point.
Great, I hope so. If you have questions, you can put them into the AAQ. We're happy to answer your questions. If you select Sage when you're putting in your AAQ, you'll go right to the Sage desk and we'll answer reporting questions. We don't do YHDP general questions there. We just do YHDP reporting. Carolyn, are you on? Do you want to say anything? Must not be here. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We hope you have a terrific evening. Take care. Bye.
I think they might have hopped off, but there was a question.